Hi guys, welcome to this week's demo. So today I wanted to give you some fun ideas for using bubbles in your art or in your card making or whatever it is that you may be working on these days. So the very first thing I wanted to share with you is just drawing bubbles. So maybe you wanted to do a fun little card where maybe it's an ocean background or like an ocean theme, or maybe you're working on something where it's like summer and you have like a little creature blowing bubbles and you want to add more bubbles to your picture. So they're really easy to create, so I'm just going to show you. I'm going to use my brush pen. This is a Tombow pen where it's a brush point on one end and a bullet point on the other end. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use my brush tip end. I'm going to kind of have my hand a little bit of an angle here. I'm going to do kind of a heavy line and then kind of just go into a little bit of a kind of a thinner line here. I'm going to use my marker here to add a little bit of shadow on this side right here. And then I'm just going to do one of these little shapes. And you can kind of do that kind of around here. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I may kind of swirl off into nothing. I'm kind of giving that idea of like a little bit more kind of dimension. Or we'll do some little tiny ones kind of here and there. All right. So just some quick little bubbles here. Kind of messed up on this one just a little bit. Added a little bit too much shadow there, but that's okay. And you can add on these little extra lines around it just to kind of give that idea of bubbles around. You can use the bullet point side if you want a little bit more control here for drawing your bubbles. I find it's not as easy to control and get a nice circle when you have just your bullet point end, but it is still a fun way to draw bubbles. And we'll draw some off the edge here too. All right, so that's a nice way just to learn how to draw bubbles. And because I want to add a little bit more incorporation of some of these other colors, I'm going to go in here and add some extra little lines around some of these. And then just to kind of finish it off, I'll do these little dot groupings kind of here and there, where it's kind of a bigger dot and then a few little dots around it. And this will just kind of add a little bit more, make it a little bit more interesting. So, bubble backgrounds. So there you have it, little bubbles. All right, so that's just drawing bubbles. Now, if you happen to have a water brush, and let's see if I have a piece of acetate here, you can go with that. Oops. So if you have, this is a piece of acetate, which is a clear piece of plastic, you can take your same markers here and actually color them on a piece of plastic. So you get some different color variations there. And then you can take your water brush and squirt out a little bit of water here. Oop, my brush got a little messed up there. So I can trim that off really fast. Sorry guys, bear with me here for a minute. Alright, so you can take your water brush here and pick up a couple colors. And you can dilute it out with a little bit of water here. And then you can actually just draw in some bubbles. And this is a nice way to go because then they don't have that hard line like our past bubbles. And then if you're doing it and you want that little bit of a shine mark, you can leave it a little bit white in that little area. And sometimes I'll draw it in and then I'll go in and color around it with my watercolors. And then that way you can't see those lines and get that color. And you can actually go around it with when there's less ink on your water brush, and you kind of get that little bit of like a halo around it too. And as your brush has less and less color on it, you can get lighter and lighter colors for your bubbles. Okay. And using your different shades of blue, you can go in here and add in all your fun little guys. Then if you wanted to add even more onto it, you could actually go in and add a splatter effect with the same colors here. When you're doing a splatter effect, it's really easy to do. I'm going to use this box here so I don't put this all over my background. My splatter box. So you can actually squirt some water out onto this piece of plastic here, activating your inks a little bit more. So you get a nice little puddle. And then you can do the splatter across the entire thing. And that will just kind of finish it off. kind of giving that bubbly kind of a look. I'm actually going to go in here and add just a little bit more into that one. And there we have our bubble effect for our card, or whatever it is you're working on, drawing perhaps. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some other things. So this is just making bubbles on paper. So now let's actually play with bubbles, which of course is so much fun. So I'm going to start out with some different ideas here. So the very first thing I wanted to do, I'm just going to start out with a piece of white paper here. And I'm actually going to use some of my distress inks. And I'm going to lay down some background colors here with my distress inks, so that I can get a nice amount of color on my page. This ink, the distress ink, actually reacts with water, and so when you're using it, it actually moves right after you lay it on the paper. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and just lay down some color. These brushes are really amazing for laying down a lot of color really quickly. Now I know that I don't need to go all the way to the edge here, but I want to just create some kind of cool effect here. But I know that I don't really need a whole lot of ink. I just need some color down because it's going to actually create a really interesting effect once we get some of these areas wet. So, and I wanted to see what happens. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is a little bit of a demo, but some of it is also kind of me just experimenting. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen here, what it's going to look like. So we're just going to play and see. Okay, so I have my nice, well, it's not a perfect blend, but I have my blend from my blue to my purple. Okay, all right. I'm going to grab my splatter box out again so I don't get my background wet. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this in here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, you guys are probably going to think this is really weird, is I have some bubbles. So let's play and see. Let's see what we end up with here. Oh, I should have opened these ahead of time. Right, so bubbles are already soapy, already ready to go, so I'm just going to get the effect. But have you ever wanted to see what happens when you blow bubbles on paper? So let's see what happens. And then I just want them to kind of pop on there. Ooh. So I'm noticing I don't have as much control, so that's interesting. But the effect is very, very cool. So I think that I'm having the most positive effect when I press it onto the surface, or when I blow really little bubbles at it. Okay, I'm going to do a few more here. Now, I'm not sure you can see what's happening here, but the effect is starting to happen, the reaction with that background. And so you're getting some really interesting effects here. I'm going to press this on. So I'm liking it the most when the bubbles are sitting on the surface. All right, so didn't create as big as an effect as I thought it might, but that's okay because I have some more ideas. All right, so I'm going to pour some of this into a little Dixie cup here. And I'm going to let this set to the side while I wait to see what happens. I'm liking this ring kind of thing that's happening here where there's a big ring with the color kind of around it. That's really cool. I wish that would happen more on some of these other colors, but we'll come back to it as it dries and kind of see if there's any change or any difference there. Okay, so now I'm just going to get out a piece of paper here. So what I want to do in my splatter box here is I actually want to create a bunch of bubbles, and then I'm going to actually do a monoprint off of it. Okay, so I'm going to put these away because the bubble wand did not have as cool of an effect as I wanted, but I want to use the bubbles, the bubble solution, because it's already very bubbly and soapy, which I like. I do have dish soap over here in case I do need that, but I want to see what happens. So I'm just going to start playing with inks. I just kind of wanted to see what's going to happen here. This is some calligraphy ink, but I really like how deep and dark and black it is. I have no idea how this is going to go, but I'm just going to pour a tiny little bit into my soapy water here. Again, you guys get to watch me experiment, but you don't have to get dirty. You can just watch from the side and say, ooh, ah, and then we'll see what the disaster is or how bad it is. So again, I have no idea what's going to happen here. I think I'm actually going to do it onto this surface, and then we'll do a monoprint off of that. I guess I could probably be doing it like in a cookie sheet. That's probably a good idea, but since I don't have a cookie sheet here with me, I do have this plastic bag though. I'm actually going to use this plastic bag underneath this, or a cookie sheet would probably work. I just want something that's going to be non-porous so that my bubbles will kind of sit in place. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen here. So I'm going to blow into this. Okay. As I do this, I know these are going to kind of overflow to the top. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen. This may not work at all. Blowing out, not sucking in, because you don't want anything to happen there. I'm liking that there's already some black rings kind of happening, some black colors in this. So let's just see what happens here when we do a monoprint. Ooh, that did not come across as cool as I wanted. I think I need to go more press on and then pull off. We'll do one more. I'm going to tell you right now, I recommend closing your eyes. Got a little bit of a splash, wasn't expecting. Okay. All right. Oh, not the effect I was going for. Okay, I'm gonna let those bubbles sit on there and dry on there, and we'll see. We'll come back to that in a little bit. We'll see what happens. Okay, so this did not work as well as I was hoping. That's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put my plastic bag away because I think that might have something to do with it. And we're gonna try it on paper next. Okay, so I'm gonna get a little Dixie cup here. And then this time I'm actually going to use a little bit of water and some dish soap. Gotta get some water. Hold on, guys. Okay, I'm back. Alright, I'm going to pour some water in this one. So I got two more things I want to do here. Okay, so this time I'm going to add just a little drop of dish soap in here. Using some plain old blue Dawn dish soap. And I'll grab my straw here whenever I set that down. Isn't that fun? Don't you love when you lose the straw you're playing with? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to stir this up a little bit. So we have our soapy water in here, just the dish soap and water. Then I'm going to go ahead and put in some ink. And in this case, I think I'm going to try and do some oxide ink actually. Even though I know it's going to dilute a little weird because we're diluting it in water. And that's not really what you're usually supposed to do with oxide ink because it kind of changes how it looks on black paper, but we're not doing this on black paper, so it's okay. All right, so I sprayed some in there. I'm just going to go ahead and swirl this around a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and do what I was doing before and blow into it until I get the bubbles out. Close your eyes when you're doing this. You can open your eyes and move it across. And again, we're going to see what happens here as it dries and these bubbles pop, because we'll see the effect that's going to happen here, because I really just don't know what it's going to look like. It might not look very cool at all. It might look really cool. Already, I am loving this. Let's see what happens when we blow out the bubbles. Oh, it's kind of cool, actually. Okay, I'm going to do just a couple more. my tip is over here. Okay. All right, and now I think I'm going to go in and actually do another color, but this time I actually want to do it in a cup with just the straight Distress Oxide ink rather than and then also some soap rather than put in any water too. Oh, I might need to add a little bit of water though. Yeah, I'm gonna have to because it's just, I don't want to waste my oxide ink. So a little bit of water to that and a tiny little bit of soap. Just doing 1 drop of soap. Okay, make sure that you're only ever playing in the same end of the straw so you don't get ink all over you. I think I need to put a little bit more liquid in there. Not overflowing enough for me. Maybe I just need some more soap. I'm actually making more of a disaster on this one than I planned. I think I may have to set this one aside and play again on a new piece of paper. Alright, now I'm getting some good bubbles. Yes, excellent. Alright, now because this is oxide ink and it does technically show up on black paper, we're going to see if we have a similar effect happen here. Oh no, I spilled it. No. Well, sometimes that does happen. That's the life. The underside is still fine. We'll just dry this off. My effect over here, however. Okay, we're going to come back to that, even though we do have some really cool areas happening there. We'll let that dry. We'll let that dry and see what happens. Oh, I have some bubbles here still, so let's do a monoprint off of that and see what happens. Nope, that didn't work as cool as I thought it was going to. Well, let's try this on here anyway. Okay. All right. Got some more bubbles there. So we'll let those soak and dry into that. Okay. But I also really wanted to see what would happen on the black. Add some more ink to this. So get some more color here. I think I'm going to add just a tiny little bit more soap. Thanks for joining me while I play, because you never know what you're going to find or come up with. This paper I chose back here is a pearlized paper. So I don't know what the effect is going to be when it's all done here. Or if it's even going to create an effect at all, I'm not quite sure. Okay, I really want to play with the black paper though. And let's see what we got. Oh, I'm just not realizing I've been kind of off screen for a little bit. Okay. Well, we'll let this kind of do its thing over here for a minute while you kind of play with this black sheet. Okay, I'm going to get that blue again. I think I'm going to spray just a little bit more blue ink in there. Let's see if anything happens here. we'll see if anything happens there. I'm not quite sure what we're going to get. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and do one of these. It's only kind of cool on that. My effect is not happening the way I was hoping, though the effect is very cool on the white paper. The pearlized white paper did not turn out as well as I had hoped. This paper from earlier with the black ink did not turn out the way I had hoped. Thinking the fewer the better. That's what I'm liking the most. Okay, let's see this color again. Okay, on this white paper, the effect is very, very cool. I do really love that. That is very neat. I love that natural effect. So the white paper really is going to give the coolest effect. The black paper really does not, which is really unfortunate. Okay. All right. So far, this is my favorite effect. I'm really loving the organic look of the bubbles on that. Oh, look how fun that is. Oh my gosh. That is really, really cool. Okay, so I'm thinking that that's really where it's at. So let's play around with that just a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more water. I'll be right back, you guys. Okay, so I have my 1, 2, and my third color here, and I think I'm going to go in now with a green. And like I was doing before, just a little bit more soap. I think I'm a little bit more soap to each of these so I get a little bit more bubbles, a few more bubbles than I was before. Okay, so here we go. Let's see what happens. All right, so I've decided that the fewer the bubbles, the better the effect. Okay. Let's see if any of the green will show up on this paper. I'm not sure it will. All right, and now we'll do my pink. Yes, yes, love. Not sure if it's, there might be too much water over there. So I think when it gets too wet, that is also a big part of the effect not really coming out as nicely. When the paper is pretty much dry and then the bubbles land on it, just a few bubbles, that really makes it look the coolest. Okay. All right, so we're going to let that dry a little bit and we'll kind of see how that kind of comes together. Let's take a look at the other ones we've created. So this so far is definitely the coolest one. I love what's happening here. Very, very fun. This one did not turn out as cool, but the splatter from the background is kind of neat and that kind of bubbly effect is interesting. And then this one actually did turn out pretty neat from a distance. Now I'm not sure how well this one's going to dry, if some of these more bubbly effects will kind of stay as is. I'm hoping that they do because as the ink dries it wants to stay in that shape. So I'm going to let this sit and then we'll come back to it in a little while after I dry it and we'll see what happens there. Now the black paper just did not show up at all. Though it's interesting here because some of these other areas where just that the oxide ink was there, that did actually show up quite a bit. So that's actually kind of interesting. So I'd be interested to play around with that technique a little bit more. All right, let's take a look at what we have down here. So we have some kind of interesting bubbly effects there. Okay, so that's what we have.
So I'm thinking that the blowing bubbles on it was kind of a cool effect on the ink. So that would be kind of a fun way to kind of play. So that is the story of playing with bubbles with paper. All right, you guys, I hope you had fun today. I hope you learned stuff. I hope you enjoyed my little demo on bubbles in your art. Personally, I love to draw on watercolor bubbles, but I also love the organic look of what happens with bubbles and soap too. You never know what you're going to get with art. All right, guys, hope you have a great day. I'll see you later.